I do personally believe that we will see an overt confiscation of gold in this country, because even recent history tells us that that is likely to happen. Desperate governments do desperate things, but they have to also stay within the letter of the laws that they created. So, eminent domain laws, which means that they have to pay you for what they take from you. If you're looking at bars or bullion, that's pretty easy because they manage, even admitting to managing, as I know you guys know, the precious metals prices, because a rising gold price is an indication of a failing currency. So it would be pretty easy if, say, spot was at $3,000 or $4,000 at that point, and they chose to make a confiscation, to say, okay, well, we'll pay you $10,000 for it. And most people, not understanding that they are about to completely crash the currency, although I guess it would be kind of hard to believe that anybody thinks they wouldn't or aren't doing that now, but a lot of people would go, well, wow, it's only worth $4,000, and look at this, they're willing to pay me 10 for it. Okay, because they want you to volunteer. They do not want pushback. And then they just reset it, 3,500%. I mean, I don't know what the cover ratio is going to be, and I don't know what that exactly that's going to look like, except you can look at Venezuela, you can look at a lot of countries that have gone through it, and it just goes like that. So for me personally, if I can hold it, I'm not talking about silver in this case, I'm just talking about gold. But if I can hold it inside of an IRA, I don't buy it because I believe that it's going to be confiscated. So I personally, that's not always been true. It just, once we hit a certain point in the trend cycle, I was no longer comfortable holding bullion. So I only buy gold collectible coins, and that's all I own. In the strategy that we were talking about earlier, part of the strategy is right now you've got gold and silver that are severely undervalued, and you have all other asset classes that are severely overvalued. Well, that's going to flip-flop. And I want the kind of gold and silver that I can actually use in the normal marketplace, because part of building that dynastic wealth foundation, or part of retirement planning, to be perfectly honest with you, is to ensure that you have income that you cannot outlive. So for me, yeah, maybe you don't turn in your bullion, but it's going to be a lot more challenging using it in the normal marketplace, which is definitely part of my personal strategy. You know, they did confiscate silver back in 33, but the difference between the two is that silver gets used up in manufacturing and gold does not. So I don't really have the same feelings around confiscation of silver that I do of gold. So I own like all of the above. You know, and I 100% agree with you. The silver is really my barterable part of the portfolio, right? Because I like all the different sizes. I do the same thing with gold, because I like the sovereigns, for example, for like property taxes. Because you can have your house paid off, but if you can't pay your property taxes, you're going to lose your house. So, you know, it just depends on what, again, you know, what am I trying to accomplish here? That's the direction that I'll go in. But for those people that are just looking to sustain a standard of living, then having all silver would definitely work, because it is your barterable piece. But if you're looking to really grow wealth, you can hold a lot more wealth in the same size package.
Understood.
And so it just, again, it's establish your goal. That's the first thing we do. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And then you design the portfolio around that, rather than just kind of willy-nilly. No matter what you do with gold and silver, you can't get burned because it's so ridiculously undervalued. But is it really going to be the right tool for the specific job that you're looking at. Because even when you're saying, well, gold is expensive and silver is not as expensive, and all of that's true, but you can still get fractional gold coins. And you'll have to forgive me because I don't work in the retail area of the business anymore, so I really don't know what they go for. But, you can get old fractional gold coins for a few $100. Those are industrial metals, and platinum is primarily controlled by Russia. But it is definitely a precious metal, but this is about this is about a currency reset. So my focus and what I accumulate for myself are the currency metals, gold and silver. I can tell you that I set up my personal portfolio with silver to sustain my living expenses, my standard of living for 10 years. This is a big one, so I don't know. Things with the technology and all, things move really a lot faster, but it's really going to be based upon confidence because it's a con game. This whole fiat money system is a big con game. Yeah. And so when people are bloodied and battered and bruised enough and they lose that confidence, how long is that going to take to get that confidence back? As soon as you have a component of gold in any currency, it requires some level of fiscal responsibility. So no, they will never do it voluntarily, but they will do it to get the confidence in the currency back again. And if you stop and think about the fact that gold and good as gold and all of the cryptocurrencies, what do they look like? They look like they're gold coins, right? So even though we have been trained away from sound money over many generations, it is still in our DNA. And at the end of the day, even when you think back a few years ago to the sovereign debt crisis in Europe, a lot of people survived it by pulling out their silver and their gold in any form. It is monetary at its base, and that's how they survived. Plus, the IMF has actually discussed putting a component of gold back in to the SDR, which stands for special drawing rights. It's just a name, but it's the IMF global currency, which personally I think is going to be the new world reserve currency, because you can have a global currency, then you can have a local currency, which is what we're going to have. But roughly there were about 40 or 42 years between wars. Then they would go into hyperinflationary mode to fund the war, and they would get rid of the central banks. Central banks typically only had a 15 to 20 year charter, and then they'd hyperinflate the fake currency away, the fiat currency away, and they'd go back on the gold standard. And if you look at the time between wars, what I saw when I did this study is, World War I to World War II, the Korean War, etc. The time frame got shorter and shorter and shorter, and we've been in a perpetual war since 1989. Stop believing Wall Street. Wall Street is not your friend. It's about them making money. The reality is that the fundamental value of this stuff, the real value, the reset value it's hard to even say what it is because of all of that fiat money, government debt money that's being printed. And the more they print, the higher that fundamental value is. And that is the reason why this will have value regardless of what the currency is. And that's because these are they have the broadest base of function and the broadest base of buyer because they are used across the entire global economy, every single area. Period. End of discussion.